Once upon a time, in ancient China, in a distant village, there lived a farmer named Li Day. Li was a hard-working and simple man, owning a fertile piece of land. He worked from dawn to dusk, believing that diligent cultivation would surely yield a bountiful harvest. With the arrival of spring, nature awakened. As usual, Li Day toiled in his fields, plowing and sowing, eagerly awaiting the autumn harvest. However, that spring was unusually dry, and the lack of rain slowed the growth of the crops, casting a shadow of worry over Li Day. One day, while working in the field, he heard a loud thump. He hurriedly dropped his hoe and ran towards the source of the noise. It turned out that a large rabbit had accidentally dashed against a thick tree stump and died on the spot. Li Day was both surprised and delighted, considering this an unexpected blessing from heaven, as any extra food was welcome. From that day forward, Li Day's thoughts began to change. He pondered that if he could have such luck every day, he wouldn't need to toil in the fields anymore. Therefore, he decided to abandon his farming and spent each day waiting by the tree stump, hoping to catch another rabbit. Day after day, Li Day stood by the tree, eagerly watching his surroundings, anticipating another miraculous occurrence. However, as spring turned to summer, the weather became hotter and his crops withered from neglect, leaving his fields barren. The villagers began to talk. They couldn't understand why Li Day had given up a certain harvest to chase after uncertain luck. Nevertheless, Li Day stubbornly remained by the tree, his heart filled with dreams of catching another rabbit. As time passed, Li Day's life became more challenging. His stored grains gradually depleted, and he started to feel the pangs of hunger and despair. The villagers, seeing his plight, offered him some food and help, but they also advised him to stop wasting his time waiting for a rabbit. Yet, Li Day's mind was stubbornly fixed on that chance encounter, believing that with patience, good fortune would come again. Summer passed, and autumn arrived. Other farmers in the village began to harvest their crops, but Li Day's fields lay fallow, overgrown with weeds. He watched others busy with their harvest, and a flicker of doubt began to stir in his heart. But he was still unwilling to give up his weight. It was then that the village's wise elder, Old Jang, noticed Li Day's situation and decided to have a talk with him. Old Jang approached Li Day and asked softly, "Day, why are you still waiting here? Don't you think your fields need you?" Li Day looked up, his eyes filled with confusion and determination. "Old Jang, I'm waiting for another rabbit. It will bring me good fortune." Old Jang sighed and sat beside him, beginning to narrate ancient legends and wisdom tales from the village. He told Li Day that true fortune doesn't come by waiting but through hard work and wise choices. Story after story, the night fell, and the stars twinkled in the sky. Listening to Old Jang, the fog in Li Day's mind gradually lifted. He began to realize that his stubbornness had cost him much. His fields were abandoned, his time wasted, and that so-called good fortune was merely a random coincidence. Finally, Li Day stood up, saying to Old Jang, "I understand now. I can't keep waiting like this. I need to return to my fields and start working again. Real fortune and harvest come from one's own hands." From that day on, Li Day picked up his hoe and began to work his land again. Although he had missed one harvesting season, he did not lose hope. He started planning how to plant and harvest better in the coming year. His neighbors Sinj came to help. Together, they cleared the weeds, prepared the land, and sowed new seeds of hope. The following spring, Li Day's fields were brimming with life. With the help of his neighbors, his land regained its fertility, and the seeds sprouted under the warm spring sun. Day worked tirelessly in his fields every day, his face always wearing a satisfied smile. He learned to observe the weather and adapted his farming techniques to suit different crops. His hard work and wisdom paid off, and his crops grew better than in previous years. In the summer, his fields were waves of golden wheat, and the rice plants bent under the weight of heavy grains. When autumn arrived, he reaped the most bountiful harvest of his life. The villagers admired his yield and gathered to celebrate the fruitful season. Li Day shared part of his harvest with those who had helped him, his generosity and humility earning him respect and affection from the villagers. At that time, Li Day stumbled upon a little rabbit near his field. It was playfully hopping around the tree stump, lively and adorable. Day watched it with a smile and softly said, "Little lively and adorable. I no longer need to rely on luck." He did not chase after it, allowing it to hop freely in the fields. From then on, Li Day became a model farmer in the village and an example for the younger generation. He often shared his experiences with young farmers, emphasizing the importance of diligence, wisdom, and patience. His story was passed down from generation to generation, becoming a source of encouragement and insight. In his later years, Li Day sat in his courtyard reflecting on his life. His children played and laughed around him his life. His children played and laughed around him his life, and the crops continued to be plentiful. He was deeply grateful for the rabbit that had hit the tree stump, as that accidental event taught him a valuable life lesson through luck and success don't come from waiting but are created through one's own effort and wisdom.